Hello, Studio Mixers. It's Ken here, and I'm going to be giving to you guys a variation on a foam roll and stretch class. I realize as we're doing these videos that a lot of you do not have the same equipment, obviously, that we have here at the studio, and we do have classes that are the foam rolling class where we would be using something like this. If you have one of those, awesome. That's a really great way to kind of do a lot of self-care, self-fascial release, or self-massage, however you want to call it. Basically, this class, we're only going to be utilizing a tennis ball. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a tennis ball. It could be a lacrosse ball. It could be many different types of balls, dryer balls sometimes. But usually I find that the density of a tennis ball is usually about the right amount of pressure, especially if this is your first time trying it. I would not start out using a lacrosse ball, but you're able to do a lot of the same, or at least hit a lot of the same spots as a foam roller in a self-myofascial release or self-massage using a tennis ball as you would with any other device. A couple of things about this, doing a class that is just around a tennis ball. In some cases, the tennis ball is going to make this a lot more intense, just because it's one singular point rather than just a whole roller of area that the body weight can be spread on. And in some ways, it's a lot more adaptable. So kind of listen to your body as we go through this. We're going to be doing a lower body session today. I'll be posting another one that's going to be more for the upper body. But either way, as we go through this, if this is your first time doing this, just know that some of these things are going to hurt. If you feel pain that is on a scale of 1 to 10, just ease the pressure up. You have the ultimate amount of control as you do this, so listen to your body. This is definitely a listen to your body class. And if you find a place as we go through this, since this is a video and I'm not able to work through this with you one-on-one, if you find a place where it just kind of has that good hurt, where it feels like, ooh, that's kind of nice, and you want to stay there, stay there. Pause the video, hang out, just listen to your body. Your greatest tool as we go through this is going to be your intuition. I'll kind of guide you through some of the hot spots. Some of them are going to resonate for you, some of them are not. But really that's because we're all mapped out a little bit differently. I'm just going to be hitting some of the hot spots for self-myofascial release in the lower body. Okay, we're going to start off with my favorite, and usually this is going to be a place where a lot of people hold a lot of tension, is your feet. So we're going to work from the feet and work our way up. So starting from a standing position, go ahead and place your tennis ball on the floor, or your lacrosse ball, or whatever it is. Make sure that it's not on a wooden floor. If you put it on the wooden floor and once you start stepping on it, it's going to start shooting away from you because there's no traction to it. So I find putting a yoga mat underneath it or doing it on a carpet, something like that is a really great way to do this. And there's really no specific rhyme or reason as far as like, you must do it this way or you must not do it this way, unless you're dealing with something very specific like plantar fasciitis. If that's the case, you might want to take the advice of the doctor. They have other methods where you're actually rolling and using a frozen water bottle, those kind of things. But for the purposes of this, just kind of look around. I'm rolling through the bottom of the foot and just looking for anywhere in that arch area that might feel like you might want to press on it. When you find an area that feels a little bit tense, which I'm guaranteeing you're going to find something. If not, get a more dense ball. And then just kind of give a little bit of your pressure to it. As you push your body weight into it, you should feel or imagine, or I like to imagine that the bones are kind of melting over the top of the tennis ball so that there's space in between those tarsal bones. It feels really awesome. And try to relax your toes. If your foot is tense as you're rolling over it, you're not going to be able to get as deep, and you might be adding a little bit of tension to the feet rather than trying to dissipate some of that tension. A couple of other go-to exercises that I really like is I would go and place the ball of my foot on the floor and relax your toes, and then press into the heel a little bit, right at the base. That's where the plantar fascia and the calcaneus are, and just kind of rock from side to side. I'll show you from this angle, and just kind of let the ankle bones soften over the top of that. There might be some real tense spots for you right there. Or you can go to the ball of the foot. So the ball of the foot, it's right underneath there. And then again, you're going to let the toes relax and drape over the top of the ball without curling them. No muscle activity necessary. And just kind of push into the ball, like you're trying to crush it with the ball of your foot. And again, you're feeling those tarsal bones kind of drape over the top of the ball. And then if you want to here, you can also kind of do that wiggle, that inversion, eversion. Now here's the hot spot. I can guarantee you this is going to be painful for some of you out there. Go into your instep, right there, on the inside of the foot, and then give as much pressure as you feel comfortable. So I'm talking about not the center of the foot, but right there, right on the instep. That's hard. It hurts. So kind of give a little bit of love to that area and try and release as much as possible. And then make sure you get the other side. So same kind of thing. Start off with just anywhere. And again, take your time. If you want to pause the video and you kind of want to spend a little bit more time, I'm going to be kind of like muddling through everything quickly. A really good session, like an hour-long class for foam rolling and stretching, usually you'd only get through maybe a part of the lower body. It takes time. So when you find places that resonate for you, stay. Stay there. This is your time. And then going into the heel. So in the heel, trying to find that space right where the calcaneus bone, your heel bone, starts, right into the arch of the foot. You're looking for that little space right there. And then start your inversion, eversion to try and soften the foot. Making sure your toes stay relaxed. It's one of the main things, and you'll find this all the way through all the self-myofascial release practices. Have you ever had a massage? When you go into a massage and you start to tense up, maybe they hit that one spot that it's like, oh, that hurts. So the muscle contracts against it, right? Go ahead and take it to the ball of the foot. And then start the same thing, drape the toes, and then go side to side. What does the massage therapist then tell you to do? If you've tensed up against what they're pressing, they tell you to breathe and relax. Now the reason for that, in part, is because you don't want to be walking away from your massage session feeling like you got hurt, right? So you don't want to feel like you've been restricting against whatever it is. You want to be able to release into those things. And the same thing applies here. You want to make sure that the muscle that you're rolling, you're not going into a 10 out of 10 where you can't relax. You want to find areas that just feel kind of like maybe a 5 out of 10 in pain, and just try to breathe and train the muscles to relax around the myofascial release that you're doing. And really from there, it just becomes an exploration, really. There are some guidelines which we'll go through as we get into some of the other certain areas. And then go into the instep. This is the hard part. And you may be realizing that you're not as symmetrical as you think you are. You may have a ton of pressure on one side, and it may hurt a lot on your right foot, then you go to your left foot, and it's a piece of cake. That is very common, and that's also a little bit of a warning sign. If you have any kind of instability that you're not really sure exactly where it comes from, or any kind of asymmetry, sometimes that can be something over time that can develop into an injury. So injuries tend to travel up the body, so if you're asymmetrical down there, it can kind of work up, your body has to compensate in the next joint up, and then all of a sudden you've got a back problem. So that's some of the stuff that can happen. So those are things to listen to, and if you're finding any hot spots down here, just do this more often, you'll be fine. So moving on, I'm going to take us into the calf, going up that next part of the body. Again, tennis ball is going to want to go on the floor in an area that is not going to slip away from you, especially for this one. So the calf muscle is a really tricky one. For some of us, this is no problem. For some of you, especially runners or people who run on, who do high plyometric stuff or high impact stuff, this might be really, really hard for you to relax on. So I'm just laying my leg down onto the tennis ball and just kind of fishing around, looking for anywhere that might, feel a little bit tight. Now, what's really cool about the tennis ball is that you can go into other areas that you can't get into with the foam roller and actually dive a little bit deeper, because it's that one point of pressure versus that one line of pressure that we get on the foam roller. The big thing is make sure that once you find a spot that feels pretty good to you, go ahead and find a way to relax around there. You can try doing a couple of foot circles, a couple of ankle circles, just to kind of move the muscle around. You might be able to work your way in a little bit deeper. Calf muscles usually tend to hold a lot of tension. Now, here's where it gets a little bit tricky. I'm going to go on the medial portion of the calf. This is where it starts to hurt a little bit more. It's kind of like that instep. Right here is very, very tender for a lot of people. So go ahead and kind of lean into the inside of the calf and try to keep your foot relaxed as you go into this. If this is not hurting for you, you can always add the pressure of the other leg. Ooh, that hurt. I'm apparently not ready to do that. And again, where I'm looking for not the back of the calf, I'm looking for the inside portion of the calf, right there. It hurts. And then we'll go on to the peroneal. So the peroneal muscle is on the outside. Again, take your time if you want to stay there on that medial portion. I'm just going to fire through these and you find what works for you. But I'm going to move on to the peroneal. So if you feel your calf bone, your calf area or your shin. There are two bones right here. Your tibia is in the front, that's the easy one to feel. There's another one back here, this little knob right here, that's your fibula. And that goes all the way down to your ankle. So we're gonna look for a muscle that goes and traces behind that muscle right there. That's your peroneal. And that actually extends all the way down through the bottom of the foot to the inside, kind of close to the big toe. All right, so we're gonna look for that one. This is a very common area for tendinitis. So this is a really good area to pay attention to. Again, people who run on the concrete outside or do high plyometric exercises, this might be a hard area for you. You're kind of using the tennis ball to trace the back of that bone, the fibula. And if you find any areas that feel tense, sit there, roll the foot around, whatever you need to do, just kind of give pressure. If that's too hard for you, and this is true for anything, feel free to just do this manually. And again, you can go all the way down to closer to the ankle. Usually this is where it's a little bit tight, a little bit hot for everybody. So kind of roll this out. This is one of your stabilizer muscles. This is one of the ones that helps propel you to push off, yes, but it also is one of the stabilizers for balance. Holds a lot of tension, and it's a hard one to stretch for some people, depending on the way that your feet are mapped out and where your flexibility lies. It's a hard area to kind of stretch out effectively. And then we move on to the anterior tibialis. Runners know this one very well. This is where, have you ever heard of shin splints? This is kind of with that area, right? So shin splints is where the muscle actually is tearing away from the bone, but this is your anterior tibialis. What's interesting about this one is that it's a muscle that is anatomically impossible to stretch. And there are a couple of those. So there's a couple of areas of the body that your body would hit bone on bone before you can actually facilitate a really deep stretch into the muscle. And this is one of those. Your jaw is another one where your body can't go into the range of motion deep enough to fully stretch it. So this is where myofascial release comes in, because it can get those areas that stretching can't. So I usually do this one manually. There is a way to do this one using your body pressure. And that is you go into a quadruped position and you're aiming the tennis ball not on the bony part, but right on the side of it, right there on the outside portion of the bone. You're looking for that area. And you're not pushing your body weight into it too much. You're just kind of letting the weight of the leg drape into the ball. And you kind of have to lean to the side so that you can kind of get the right angle on it. Go ahead and switch to the other side for all of that foot stuff, the calf stuff if you're ready, or pause the video. Take your time. Like I said, I'm going to fire through these things so that we can get to it. But notice how I'm going into my anterior tibialis at an angle. I'm not directly on it because that puts it on the bone. I actually want to be a little bit off, and I'm leaning my hips away from it on this side. This is another one that you can do on the foam roller as well. I love doing that one on the foam roller. Here, takes a little bit more precision, but you can definitely do it. And make sure that that foot is staying nice and relaxed. I am not going to do my other leg. I encourage you to stop the video or go back and try and get the other side. Again, there's no real right or wrong as far as how much time you can spend. Just use your intuition as the best guide. So maybe like 3 minutes per muscle group is usually pretty good. But again, the larger the muscle is, maybe more time is needed. It varies. I wouldn't do anything more than 5 minutes though. All right, moving on to your iliac. This one's a hard one for some people if you've got low back issues. So your iliac crest is the top of your pelvis. So you're seeing the skeleton, and you have the hip bones right here, right? They make two little like butterfly wings, right? Kind of, not exactly the shape, but they kind of go like this all the way around. This is your iliac crest is what it's called, and we're going to be tracing not right on the bone, but right below it. Like an inch below. It's where all of those gluteal muscles kind of insert themselves into the iliac crest all the way around there. You want to trace this with one of the tennis balls. Only one. There is a way to do this with two for some of them, but only one is fine. You're going to look for that bony portion of your back, right at the low back, and then go a little bit below it, right? So it's a little bit closer down to the muscly part of the butt. And then in this position, you want to relax the leg that you're rolling out, finding out the position, One leg is up and propped, and what you're going to be able to do is push into the floor with this leg until you actually are just starting to roll over onto your side, until you feel like you've got all the pressure in the ball. Keep that leg relaxed. If it tenses up, you're going to have a hard time really getting in there. The glutes are very emotional muscles, and they love to just like, ah, and then they restrict, they harden, and then you won't be able to get all the way in there. If that doesn't work for you, go to the next part of your iliac crest. So you're working your way all the way around, and you're just pushing into the floor, trying to relax that foot. I can guarantee you, you're going to find some place where you're like, oh, that's good. I promise you, you're going to find something. If not, let me know, and you and I have a date. We will actually go through this, and I'll help you find it, because it's a lot. So one of the big roll sequences that we do on the foam roller is for the IT band. The IT band is that area on the side of the leg. I'm sure you've seen people kind of doing the rolling out on the IT band, which is fine. But the IT band is not a muscle. The IT band is a piece of fascia that is strong enough to pull a truck. And so if it's tense, it puts a lot of pressure on both your knee and your hip. And that can be a lot of pressure. But the IT band itself is not necessarily always the culprit for that tension. At the very top of the IT band, you keep on working your way all the way up the iliac crest. The very, very top of the IT band, it goes all the way from your tibia, that's the T for IT, it's your iliotibial band, ilium tibial band, and it goes all the way down the side of the leg, right? But at the very top, you have your two muscles. You have your glute medius and you have your TFL. They both kind of like blend into the IT band. So if you're tense in that musculature, it's going to pull on the IT band as well. So facilitating release in this area, your TFL and your glute medius, and that whole myriad of muscles in that area will help facilitate release in your IT band a little bit. So we're going to do that. So the IT band, the glute medius and all that stuff, you can actually get on the side, towards the side of that iliac crest. And again, you're just kind of pushing pressure into the ball, and only as much as you feel comfortable. Keep that leg completely like it's asleep, relaxed. And you're just holding as much pressure as you can in the ball and just breathing. You can keep going all the way to your TFL, which is right there. So you have to kind of switch over. So I'll show you where I'm going for in a second. But you're going right below the hip bone, like the swimsuit model's hip bone, right underneath that. So the TFL, go ahead and feel right here, the swimsuit model's hip bone, and then go ahead and feel on this side, that bony protrusion, that's called your greater trochanter of your femur. Right halfway between those 2 points, right there, that's where you're aiming for in your TFL. So hip bone, greater trochanter, right in between, right there. It's right where you hinge. That's your TFL. So you're looking for that area. And again, trying to relax the leg as you put pressure into it, okay? And you can kind of look around for where the tension is. So again, I'm not going to do this leg. I'm not going to do this leg, I just did this one. I'm not going to do this one just for the purposes of kind of keeping this moving. Because this should be a video that you come back to and do again, or at least this series is something that you should do regularly. Because you're not going to change the world in one rollout session. You're not. It takes regularity, it takes practice. But this is a Teach a Man to Fish video, right? I'm not going to change your body, but you will feel the difference after going through this series. So moving on to the next thing that I wanted to do, I think that's pretty much where I'm going to leave it, except for the piriformis. The piriformis is a tricky one. On the foam roller, we usually do this one where we're sitting on the foam roller and you see people in the figure 4 and they go over onto their side. They're aiming for their piriformis, and sometimes they hit it and sometimes they don't. This is a muscle that is a rotator. It rotates your leg at the femur, and it holds a lot of tension. And if it's tense, it can actually cause things like sciatica. It can add that pressure into that area, and that's a big problem. So we're going to look for it. Remember that greater trochanter bone that I was talking about earlier on the side? Right? It's attached to your femur. It's a bone that kind of goes, this is your femur, and then there's a little bone where all these muscles attach on the side, and then you have the ball and socket that goes into the hip joint, right? You're looking for that bone, right? Then from there, you're going to trace, you're going to go back to that same position, but you're going to place the ball behind it. So this is where my bony area is. I'm going to go right underneath it and place the tennis ball right there. Now at first, once you relax your leg, once you feel it in that place, right behind that bone, feels like nothing. Go over a little bit and try and roll a little bit more on top of the bone. If you don't feel it, keep on looking. You will find it. It'll be that moment of like, oh, I found it. It'll be that. And that's a glorious moment right there when that happens. It's good stuff. Holy crap. And then again, try and relax as much as possible. Again, if you have sciatica or if you have any kind of structural issues, I would say talk to your doctor about this kind of stuff. I do like that this is very, very controllable. It will help facilitate release. It may not solve all the world's problems if you already have a pre-existing condition, but this will help facilitate release around that area for sure. So it's worth exploring, and you also don't have to kind of push yourself into it so much that it's like agonizing in pain. You don't want to do that. To finish things off, I would just go into a couple of stretches. So a good couple of hip flexor stretches would be this one where you grab onto your knees. This is not a hip flexor stretch, this is an inner thigh stretch. Go ahead and let the knees fall out to the sides, and you're just kind of holding onto your shins or your knees and letting gravity stretch your inner thighs. And if you're feeling really accelerated, you can go into a straddle stretch. It would be kind of the same thing, just a little bit more leverage, but don't do that unless you feel comfortable. And then the next stretch that I would go for to kind of facilitate a little bit more stretch is you can go into a happy baby pose. Grabbing onto the outside of the foot or your shin. Now once you've got this all settled, you want to feel like you're relaxed and you're just kind of bracing yourself with your hands, and then your hips are just slowly gliding to the floor. They're kind of trying to relax into the floor, and that's the impetus of the stretch. Then from there, you want to release one leg and then feel that opening up of the hip flexor. So the leg doesn't have to be, sometimes people like to lock it. I think for the purposes of what we're doing, I'm trying to relax it, so keep it kind of loose and just kind of let that hip flexor open up. And then go to the other side. Again, trying to let gravity do most of the work for you here. And then the last stretch, you can hold these for about 20 to 30 seconds each. The last one is your traditional figure four. So you're laying on the floor, cross one leg over. It's like a forward. Go ahead and grab underneath. Interlace your fingers behind your thigh. Or if you've got long arms or if you're hyper flexible, you can actually wrap around your shin or your knee. Just give it a little bit of a deeper stretch. Now this stretch doesn't come from pulling. I'm not trying to pull myself into my stretch. The stretch comes from my tailbone and my two shoulder blades relaxing into the floor, right? So the greater surface area you have of your back connecting to the floor, the deeper the stretch will be just by using gravity. It's nice. It's a good thing. Less is more. It's true. And then go to the other side. Start by crossing the leg, and then go ahead and interlace the fingers wherever you're going to. So the first 3 to 5 seconds is that stretch reflex that happens in the muscle. It kind of like doesn't let you go very far, and then after a while, once you hold it and breathe, the muscle will slowly start to release a little bit more. At that point, that's when you start to feel those 3 points. Your shoulder blades and your tailbone start to melt on the floor. Isn't that nice? And then hang out there as long as you want. And hopefully your legs feel a little bit different. That foot rolling series, if you can make that a daily practice, it will change your life. It has helped me a lot. Coming from my ballet background where my feet were just super, super tense. Just having that little bit of a practice helped to facilitate a lot more release the entire way throughout my kinetic chain, my body. It's a good thing. So, so I encourage at least doing that part once a day would be a really great thing. But Yeah. Be on the lookout for the second video of this series of tennis ball rolling that I'm going to be doing the upper body. So otherwise, keep on looking for videos from us at Studio Mix as we get through this, and hopefully I'll be able to see you at the center here with us soon as it's safe. But until then, stay safe. Thank you.